March 25, 2011. Dr. P.G.S. Rao, Deputy Director in the Finance Ministry, sends an office memorandum to Vinny Mahajan, Joint Secretary in the Prime Minister's office. Subject: allocation and pricing of 2G spectrum. Sent after Finance Minister Pranab Mukherjee had personally seen the 11-page document. This Finance Ministry note, sent many months after the controversy broke and just a month after A. Raja was jailed this February, has been accessed by RTI activist Vivek Garg. And it now puts present Home Minister and the then Finance Minister P. Chidambaram under the scanner. The note details the role of Chidambaram and the Finance Ministry in the controversial allocation of 2G spectrum. Former Communications Minister A. Raja, DMK MP Kanimori, former Telecom Secretary Siddharth Behuria and several corporate bosses are already in jail in the 2G spectrum scam. The note categorically states that the Department of Telecom would have been forced to cancel the 2G licenses doled out by Raja had the Ministry of Finance under Chidambaram stuck to its original demand for auctioning the initial startup spectrum of 4.4 MHz each allotted to the 2008 licensees. Various official estimates have so far put the loss to the exchequer due to the 2G scam somewhere between rupees 50,000 crore to rupees 1,76,000 crore. However, present Telecom Minister Kapil Sibal has gone on record to claim that the exchequer suffered no loss. This note from the Finance Ministry, now headed by the UPA government's all-season troubleshooter Pranab Mukherjee, makes several telling observations. It says that the Finance Ministry under Chidambaram implicitly agreed to imposition of same entry fee as that prevailing in 2001 for licenses allotted up to December 31, 2008. This despite a November 22, 2007 note by the then Finance Secretary and present RBI Governor D. Subbarao that the 2001 mobile license entry fee of Rs 1600 crore had been applied and not the market price at that time. The note goes on to say how there was a consensus between Raja and Chidambaram not to charge more for spectrum up to 4.4 MHz. I quote, however, these were not charged beyond the normal spectrum usage charges since there was consensus at the levels of the ministers concerned that spectrum beyond the startup levels only should be charged. Unquote. The note sent to the PMO also says, and I quote, DOT could have invoked this clause 5.1 of the UAS license for cancelling license if the Ministry of Finance had stuck to the stand of auctioning the 4.4 MHz spectrum. Unquote. Vivek Garg, with his barrage of RTI applications, has been trying to get to the bottom of the 2G spectrum scam. He says this note will be a game changer.
Such a big scam without the involvement of Ministry of Finance or other ministries, it was not possible to do. Now under RTI from the Prime Minister office, which I have got the note, it's a eye-opening, I can tell you. It prima facie exposed very clearly that Mr. Chidambaram and other people were also involved in this scam.
The Finance Ministry note digs deeper. 15 January 2008, 5 days after Raja's ministry doles out 121 letters of intent allegedly to select companies, Chidambaram's secret note tells Prime Minister Manmohan Singh that the spectrum allocation made in the past should be treated as a closed chapter. 30th January 2008. 15 days later, Chidambaram and Raja met. The note to the PMO says that in the meeting, it was noted by then Finance Minister that he was now not seeking to revisit the current regimes for entry fee or revenue share. This despite Chidambaram's own ministry objecting to Raja's decision even a month after the letters of intent were issued by Raja's ministry. 11 February 2008. An internal note was prepared by the Department of Economic Affairs under the Finance Ministry, wherein the entire range of spectrum was proposed to be charged for both new and old operators. This note to the Prime Minister's office clearly says that the Department of Economic Affairs, then under Chidambaram, was well within their legal rights to revise the spectrum pricing, despite the fact that Raja's ministry had already doled out the letters of intent, though they anticipated a few litigations from those companies who were already allocated the 2G spectrums. However, 2 months later, on April 21, 2008, Chidambaram sent a non-paper to Raja where he conveyed that in principle decision may be taken to price the spectrum beyond 4.4 MHz. This was precisely what Raja's ministry was suggesting all along. Pranab Mukherjee's finance ministry will have to explain why it took a U-turn after giving a clean chit to the Ministry of Finance earlier headed by Chidambaram to the CAG. But this note to the PMO clearly establishes that there was a consensus between Chidambaram and Raja not to increase the charges on the initial startup spectrum beyond the 2001 prices. There was also a common desire between the two ministers not to revisit either the entry fee or the user charges. Clearly, this note to the PMO gives a new dimension to one of the biggest scams in the country. In New Delhi, Shumon Chakrabarti.